Welcome to Marketing Momentum on the Rise, the show where we burn off the noise, fix what's broken in your growth engine, and rebuild with clarity. I'm Sterling Phoenix, and if your funnel's stalled, your message is ghosting your buyers, or your team can't agree on what's actually working, this is the clarity pass you didn't know you needed. Let's go. Your brand voice might be clean. It might be consistent. It might even make the CMO proud. But if it doesn't sound human, it won't convert. Because buyers don't trust brand robots. They trust voices that feel real. And here's the uncomfortable truth of it. Most brand voices today sound like they were written by committee, approved by legal, sanitized by a dozen stakeholders who were more worried about not offending anyone than actually connecting with someone. The result? Copy that's technically flawless and emotionally flat. Yes, you've got the grammar right. The tone guides followed, every sentence perfectly aligned with your brand book, but nobody feels anything when they read it. Nobody believes it. Nobody remembers it. And nobody buys because of it. Because polish without personality, well, it's just noise. I see it constantly. Brand teams spend weeks wordsmithing landing pages. Marketing directors obsessing over whether to use innovative or cutting edge. Legal redlining anything that sounds remotely bold. And what you end up with is perfect sentence structure, not a comma out of place, everything grammatically pristine, and completely vetted vocabulary, every word pre-approved, nothing too edgy, nothing too real. Everything compliant, aligned, and completely forgettable. You sound like a press release, not a person. And your audience, well, they ghost because they feel absolutely nothing. Think about the last piece of marketing that actually made you stop scrolling, that made you lean in, that made you think, wait, they get it. I guarantee it wasn't one of those with the most polished copy. It was the one that sounded like a real human having a real conversation about a real problem. That's what we've lost in our obsession with polish. We've optimized for perfection and accidentally deleted connection. We've made everything so incredibly safe that it's become completely invisible. And in a world where attention is the scarcest resource, invisible is the same as dead. Let's clear up something right now. Humanizing your brand voice doesn't mean dumbing it down. It doesn't mean throwing strategy out the window or talking like you're texting your college roommate. What it actually means is getting clear, not just casual. You're not trying to sound like everyone's best friend. You're trying to be understood immediately without translation. It means getting authentic, not just like using slang. You're not adopting language that doesn't actually fit your brand just to seem cool. You're removing the corporate speak that makes you sound like everyone else. It means getting relatable, not reckless. You're not abandoning your values or your professionalism. You're just letting your actual perspective come through instead of hiding between the platitudes and buzzwords. A human brand voice is one that sounds like something a real person would actually say in a conversation. It acknowledges reality instead of painting everything as perfect. And it uses language that creates connection, not distance. And ultimately, it makes people feel seen, not sold to. That's the difference. And once you hear it, you can't unhear it. You start noticing how robotic most brand copy actually sounds. So, how do you actually do this? How do you make your brand sound human without sacrificing strategy, professionalism, or results? Here are the 4 moves that will transform your voice immediately. Move number 1, write to a real person, not a persona doc. Stop writing to Sarah, 35 to 45, director level, pain point, lack of visibility. That's not a person. That's a spreadsheet with a name. Instead, think of a real customer, someone you've actually talked to, someone whose frustration you remember, someone whose exact words stuck with you. Write like you're answering their email, not pitching to a panel of executives who've never talked to a customer in 3 years. When you write to a real person, your language changes. It gets really specific, it gets warmer, it gets useful. You stop saying things like, we provide innovative solutions that drive operational efficiency. And you start saying things like, we help you stop drowning in spreadsheets so you can actually focus on strategy. See the difference? One sounds like a robot, the other sounds like relief. Move number 2, use friction language. Here's where most brands get it really wrong. They only talk about their benefits. Increase productivity by 40%, seamless integration, best in class performance. Cool. But none of that creates connection. You know what does? Naming the really hard parts. Talk about what's frustrating, what's annoying, what keeps your customers up at 2 a.m. staring at the ceiling. Tired of chasing down approvals across 17 different email threads? Sick of tools that promise automation but still require 3 hours of manual setup every week? Done with software that breaks every time you try to scale? That's friction language. And it works because it proves you actually get it. You get their pain. It shows you're not just selling, you're actually acknowledging their reality. And in a world full of brands pretending everything is easy and perfect, acknowledging your customer's reality is a massive competitive edge. Now, move number 3, break the perfect sentence. You're not writing a textbook. You're not submitting your master's thesis. You're sparking belief, building momentum, creating movement. So use those sentence fragments. Create rhythm. Play around with placing. Short sentences, they hit hard. They create urgency. They force people to pay attention in a distracted world. Longer sentences let you build context, explain nuance, and bring people along on a journey before you land the point. Both of them matter. But if every sentence in your copy is perfectly structured, grammatically flawless, and exactly the same length, you're putting people to sleep. Read your copy aloud. Does it have energy? Does it move? Does it breathe? Or does it sound like a legal document? If it's the latter, break it. Rewrite it. Give it some life. Move number 4. Reread everything you write and put on your website or in a brochure out loud. This is really the ultimate test. Take your landing page, your email sequence, your product descriptions, and read them out loud, exactly as written. Now ask yourself, would I ever say this on a sales call? Would this come out of my mouth in an actual, real conversation with a real human? If the answer is no, if it sounds like someone trying to impress a stakeholder or like you're reading from a script you don't actually believe in, well, then it's wrong. Rewrite it. Because if you wouldn't say it to someone's face, your audience won't believe you when you say it on a screen. The best brand voices pass the would I actually say this test every single time. And if you want to take that a step further, reread it and record it so you can go back and see how you actually sound reading it out. Here's the reality. We don't buy from perfect brands. We buy from brands that feel like they get us. We buy from voices that sound like they've been where we are, that understand the struggle we're going through, that aren't actually trying to just impress us. They're trying to help us. And that doesn't come from polish. It comes from truth and tone and trust. It comes from being willing to sound like a human instead of hiding behind a bunch of corporate speak because it feels safer. Safe doesn't convert. Safe doesn't build moments. It doesn't create movement. It doesn't create loyalty. Real does. So if your brand voice has been scrubbed so clean it no longer even has a pulse, it's time to bring it back to life. Stop writing for the approval committee. Start writing for the person on the other side of the screen who's deciding whether to trust you based solely on the words that they're reading. Because that's the only vote that actually matters. If this episode reminded you of a campaign that flopped, momentum, sounded like a no burn, wrote it, that's the rise. Seriously, open that doc, read it out loud, find 3 sentences that make you absolutely cringe because you never actually say them out loud, and rewrite them like you're talking to a real person. Or share this episode with a person on your team who needs to hear it, the one who's still fighting for real language in a sea of corporate speak. I'm Sterling Phoenix. This is The Rise. Speak like a human. Sell like a leader. I'll see you on the next one.